For more than 30 years, Robert Edward Auctions has been the nation's premier auction house, specializing in sports memorabilia and trading cards. With significant experience and expertise in all major sport, non-sport, and Americana collectibles, REA has helped clients achieve record-breaking prices for their items and has done so with a reputation for integrity and transparency. By actively partnering with collectors and enthusiasts throughout the entire process, REA has created the hobby's most trusted forum for selling high-quality collectibles. Go to robertedwardauctions.com for more information on how to buy or sell in their next auction.
I'm Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Card Mensches.
All right. Today we played the intro on time. Kudos to the producers of said show. Episode 14 of the Card Mensches. A little different today. And I see a comment from Ruben already. I want to, I feel this will be educational. I hope so, Ruben. And I think we're all going to learn. I think we're going to learn from each other's lists. For those that don't know, there it is on the screen. But for those listening only, me and Danny have made a top 10 list of all-time Jewish baseball players. We have we have Jewish heritage, and people love lists, so that's where this came about. This won't be the one and only top 10 list we ever do. It just happens to be the first one with sort of the backdrop of the show and kind of what it's all about. And so we each made our own individual 10 player list. We did not compare notes or anything. We're going to find out each other's list like anyone else will as we go through the show. I'll say this about the list, Danny. Obviously, we're going to have many probably similar players. I think it's a safe bet who the number one guy on this list will be, probably for both of us, consensus, right? And then it will get interesting as we go through. We're going to do this, folks, for those listening or watching, in snake draft order. In other words, if I was to give my number one guy, then Danny will give his number one guy. And then Danny will give his number two guy. I will give my number two guy and my number three guy and go back and forth like that. I will tell you right now, I know for a fact we will not have the same 10 players. And someone said, well, how do you know that? I just know. It's one of those, gut feelings. So, it's going to be fun. And then learning. Like I don't want to just mention the player name and name only. We're going to talk a little bit about some of their stats and why they made our list. Danny, but before we get kind of went on there about what we're doing tonight, anything you want to add?
Well, I think I was answering the most important question we're going to get all night, so we might as well get it out of the way. Rod Carew is not eligible, and that's based upon an interview he gave and some other research that I did ahead of time. So I'm looking forward to having a little bit of fun. I think we'd be remiss not to give a shout out to Adam Sandler and having a little bit of fun with this. And I'm looking forward to learning some facts about some of the baseball players and just from the sport, from some of your research. And I hope I can teach you a thing or two. And a lot of these guys are also interesting cards to collect if you're looking for a PC.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I've doing this, doing the research and getting the prep done for the show, Danny. I'm not going to lie. I'm really thinking about maybe doing a PC kind of based around this kind of stuff. So, so and I learned stuff in making this list. I'm not going to lie. The final draft I have here is probably the third one I did before I kind of settled on what I was my 10. And I'm going to mention a couple guys that just fell out of my top 10 towards the end of the show when we're done with their list. And there's a guy I'm going to tell you, I don't think he's going to be on your list, and wait till I tell you what this guy, what he's done. And you're going to, I think other people are going to be like, holy cow. Now, if Adam Sandler hears this or whatever, and he's mad that we didn't, he's in the Hanukkah song, and Adam Sandler's mad that he's not eligible. We're officially inviting Adam Sandler on a future Card Mensches, or if he jumps in tonight, I know he's not very busy. He's Adam Sandler. He can come in and make his case for Rod Carew. I will say this: had Rod Carew been eligible, I mean, I think he's would have made both. Obviously, made both of our lists. So that's why he's not on our list. It's nothing against Rod Carew personally. Arguably one of the greatest hitters in baseball history, pure hitters, but just not eligible to make this.
Jewish.
So, myself and my dad did not fall in the top 10. But I will say this, or Danny.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
I was honorable mention.
Yeah. I will say this. There and at least on my list, there's and not necessarily intentionally, there's a lot of New York flavor on my list. And we'll see that as we go through it. So
okay, well, first of all, I'm looking forward to the list. I'd like to give a shout out to my in-laws. I'm representing the new Baltimore City Connect jersey tonight, so thank you to them.
Hang on, though, before we get to this list, today's not just a great day because the Mensches are on it. It's a great day because Danny turned 21 years old today. So everybody wish Danny a happy birthday. There he was as a Kid Mensch. I think that was his name, Kid Mensch, or his rap name. I think that was his rap name.
Yeah.
But there's Dan. But all joking aside, the happy birthday, Danny's legit. The picture might not be, but today is Danny's 21st birthday. So
did you slip that in there?
Yes, I did.
Very sneaky, Mr. Newman. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go. We'll do the strobe effect. All right, enough of that. But it is Danny's birthday for real, and so we wish him a very happy birthday and many more as well. When we will do this every year. So,
yeah, I was about to say. Hopefully, I get one every year.
So I don't know. All right, so let's. I guess without further ado, enough of the jibber jabber, and probably should get to this list. It's Danny's birthday. We're both gonna have the same number one guy. I think legitimately, if 100 people did this list, this guy would be or should be number one on all 100. So I think it's a chalk pick, but we still got to give him. We still got to give him his due. I'm going to let Danny. It's his birthday, so I'm going to let him go first. I also will say, this was a card that I stole from you last year at the National, and now you got it. That's your news that I just broke. But you're the owner of this gentleman's rookie card. So go ahead and announce the number one pick. I think in a sense it's for both of us. But then we can talk about him.
Well, since this is a hobby show, how about I introduce the player by their card? 1955 Topps rookie card, Sandy Koufax. I think you're talking about for his peak period, maybe the greatest peak in the history of Major League Baseball, the most dominant pitcher, for every time he took the mound for a period of time. So Sandy Koufax to me is an easy number one. He's got a Paul Bunyan myth to him. There's a Yom Kippur, story that just makes him bigger than life. But on top of that, you're talking about a guy that pitched, almost a no-hitter a year for several years, and was really just the best pitcher at a time when you had the best hitters in the league.
All right, let me see who I picked. It's on my list.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's who I got.
Right, okay.
Some things I want to add here, also from Brooklyn, New York. I got to give a shout-out to my hometown. Played for his hometown team until they moved to L.A. And like you said, Danny, listen, arguably he had like the 6 most dominating years as a pitcher, maybe in baseball history. He actually started out very sort of like 500 type, and then he just fixed some mechanics and became a just almost unhittable pitcher, and just a tremendous player, person. And look at some of the talk about those 6 years. Even his last year before, like, he had to retire because of some injuries. He was, I think, 27-4 and won the Cy Young. It's not like he was like clanking at the end and it was obvious. He had a year that players in their prime would take today that no one can duplicate. So he's almost larger than life. He's been a Dodger for life. He still works in the organization as a consultant and sometimes is at spring training, and we'll talk to the players. So here we are in 2023, and this guy is still involved with the team that drafted him, and arguably one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history. The career a little shorter than you would have maybe liked to see, but some of those years he was just insane, and this is a consensus number 1 pick.
And unfortunately, he suffered from lack of medical, tools that pitchers have now. I mean, who knows what he would have done if they could have gone in there and, looked at that arm and, more than just pills and heat and cold. So I think the potential there, is even greater than what the substance was. So,
yeah.
All right. So if we're going snake draft, am I going 2 or do you go?
No, it's my turn to go 2.
Okay,
it's my turn to go 2. So, and we might be the same here. I'm assuming, if it wasn't for Koufax, this guy.
Did you just say it's your turn to go 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not that kind.
Okay.
This guy would have been probably number 1 if it wasn't for someone as dominating as Koufax. This guy was one of the most feared hitters in baseball. 2-time MVP, and obviously a baseball Hall of Famer. Is in Cooperstown. The Hebrew Hammer, Hank Greenberg, and just an incredible player, right? We can take off. Some of these guys, let's be honest, are that are going to be on the list are not in Cooperstown, but they're in the top 10. This guy is, in Cooperstown. And he's my number 2. So I'm there's not much more to be said. I'm going to throw it to Danny and see if he has the same on his number 2 list.
I do have Hank Greenberg, 159 OPS plus lifetime, and I'm a big fan of that stat. That means he was almost 60% better than the league his entire career. And people forget he also lost 3+ years to military service. So,
yep.
Yeah. So a military man on top of it, and I do have him number 2 as well. All right. Do I go number 3 now?
You go number 3. Yep. So you remember, you'll get, in a sense, now we'll be getting 2 picks back to back. So this is where, before you make your number 3 pick, I just want to say one thing. I think 1 and 2 were kind of chalk when a list like this. I think this is where we're gonna probably have different guys at different slots, or maybe different guys altogether, where someone's on your list that's not on mine. But go ahead with number 3 for you.
All right. Well, and we have not discussed this. 1953 MVP, career 137 OPS plus, Al Rosen.
Okay, I like it. I will tell you, that's not my number 3 guy. My number 3 guy is Lou Boudreau. And
on my list
for the whole body of work, okay?
Sure.
He is in the Baseball Hall of Fame, player. He then became a manager and then an announcer. He's in Cooperstown. And he's the guy, we're a lot of talk lately about like shifting, and they outlawed the shift. He invented that against Ted Williams. He invented the Ted Williams shift. And if you read up about Lou Boudreau, you learn that, and he also served in the military, so I believe he lost some years too. He was a very intelligent manager, and he's actually he's in Cooperstown more for his managerial prowess than his player prowess. So I got him at 3. But I will say this, since it's a snake draft and I get to now say who's fourth, I have Al Rosen as my fourth guy. It was close. I think at one point I was kind of, as I dropped my list, I was kind of switching these guys around before I finally settled with Boudreau. Rosen, he's the. Let me tell you something about Rosen that I didn't know till I know how great he was. But he's the only player to win MVP and Major League Baseball Executive of the Year as a front office exec. So only player in Major League Baseball history to win the MVP and Executive of the Year. He almost won the Triple Crown, as you mentioned, in 1953. Yep. He lost the batting title on the last day of the season, literally.
By 1 point, am I correct?
I believe so. So that's how close he was to being in that Triple Crown club. The other thing I want to mention, he was a very, very good amateur boxer who also used those boxing skills to stand up to, some anti-Semitism off the field and even on the field. There's been stories where some stuff was coming out of the opposing dugout, and he would run in there and basically tell the guy, come on, let's go, and people step in between. So I believe he's even suspended once for an altercation. So very, very, proud of his faith and heritage, and was quick to defend it in that. So easily could have been third as well. That's why I won't argue with your pick. He just was. I want Boudreau and then Rosen, but you could interchange though. So who was 4 for you?
Okay, 4 for me was I'll give away a little bit here. The only active player I have on the list is Alex Bregman. To me, he's only 29 years old, so there's a lot of room left, for him to add to his career. He's a 135 OPS plus player. I just see him as going down as one of the greatest Jewish players of all time, and he's in the peak of his career right now. And I didn't want to hold that against him, so I put him at 4. And snaking back around, I'll make this real easy just to show you how much you and I agree on this. I have Lou Boudreau at number 5. So he was a 63 lifetime WAR. And he finished in an amazing amount of top 10 in the MVP award. That's the one thing that I learned is I forget if it was 6 or 8 times, whatever it was, that he ended up in the MVP top 10 voting. And then, like you said, plus a managerial career and everything else on Lou Boudreau. So he was my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is going to be obviously different because I already had Boudreau at 3. My 5th guy is the second pitcher on our list, and I think he's going to make your list at a different slot. But Ken Holtzman, 2 no-hitters in his own right. And listen, I'm not saying he's better than Sandy Koufax. I don't think anyone will make that case. But I will tell you this, he has more wins than Sandy Koufax. So what we can say is he's the winningest Jewish pitcher in baseball history. Not the best, but the winningest, Jewish hurler in baseball history. So how do you not have him on the list? He comes in 5 for me. He also went on to manage in the Israeli League after his Major League Baseball career was over. So winningest Jewish pitcher, 2 no-hitters. Ken Holtzman is at number 5. So now I'll give you my 6th pick. And this is I hate to say sleeper, but this guy, and I'm going to read a lot about him here because Ruben said, he had a feeling this was going to be educational. I think this is where it comes in. This is a guy that might not make Danny's list. All right. I will say this had no insight on why he made it for number 6 for me, but this gentleman is from Brooklyn, played in the early years.
You lied. That is a huge reason he made the list.
It helped, but it's not the only reason. And this is in the early, when baseball was first start being
The
played.
late 1800s, huh?
Yeah. This guy goes back a while. Full disclosure, I did not know about this gentleman until I started doing research. And the more I start learning about him, the deeper I dug. And I'm like, this guy's got to be on this list. He started, I'm not even going to mention his name. Let me give the bio first. He started playing professional level ball at 15 years old, played till he was 42. During this time period, he was probably the best power hitter and speed combo. He led the leagues most years in not only just home runs and stolen bases. He was known for taking bets and racing other players in the league and always winning and taking their money. And in 1873, in your hometown of Baltimore, he raced a racehorse or a trotting horse named Clarence 100 yards in Baltimore, where people were betting money. He beat the horse. He beat Clarence, and a 100-yard dash. He did it in 10 seconds flat. So think about when we talk about the NFL Combine, right? And guys are running a 4.340, right? This guy, which I have not mentioned his name yet, ran 100 yards in 10 seconds. So a 50-yard, he did the 50-yard dash in 5 seconds average. That's incredible when you think about it. He played till he was 42, and then he went on to become the first professional Jewish manager in baseball history. His name is Lip Pike, Lippike. And so Lip Pike makes number 6 on my list. Look him up. If you think this is not a Sid Finch story, this is a real person. And really, everything I read about him just really would be like the first pick. And if they had drafts, then he would have been unanimous first pick. Hit home runs, stole bases, and raced everybody, beat everybody, including a horse in Baltimore. So I
don't know how Clarence ends up getting the short end of this story.
Yeah. So the horse named Clarence lost the 100-yard dash to Lip Pike, 1873 in Baltimore, and then became the first Jewish professional baseball manager, right? So I mean, now be honest, Danny, have you ever heard of Lip Pike?
We will get to him later on my list. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but this is a little bit of a niche for me. So wait. So what number was that for you?
6. So this is your 6, and then you also give your 7.
Okay, my 6 is Ryan Braun. On talent alone, he probably could have been higher, but he has a problem with FedEx delivery shipments, so I had to lower him a little bit. A lot of people I know have a problem with FedEx delivery, I hear. So,
Yeah, me too.
Right. So, you don't know who to believe. And Ryan had a 134 OPS plus, but 350 plus home runs and over 200 stolen bases, a rookie of the year and an MVP. So a 300, 200 with a rookie of the year and an MVP. Just a heck of a player at a University of Miami. Unfortunately tainted at the end of his career, but a tremendous career. I think it was almost 15 years. People forget how long it was. And so I had Ryan Braun as my number 6.
All right. Give your 7th.
7, Sean Green. 328 lifetime homers, 120 OPS plus, and 15 major league seasons. So a very solid career. I remember him playing very well. He was, for many years, considered a middle-of-the-order bat and a dangerous hitter. And some of the other names on my list, I have on for maybe not necessarily statistical reasons. So Sean Green was one of the last straight statistics on here.
We have the same number 7 guy. We'll tell you that. It's also Sean Green, number 7 on my list. 30-30 guy, right? At 30 home runs, so 30 bases, 328 home runs, and also won Gold Gloves. And there was a 3 to 5 year stretch where he was a top 10 ball player, if not higher. I got to see him here in Syracuse as a minor league ball player when Syracuse was the Blue Jays minor league affiliate. And so I saw Sean Green before he was Sean Green, we know, the major league player. And he was just as good in AAA, if not better. And so he made my number 7. He's also 14 days older than me, just so everyone knows. He was born on November 10th, 1972. I was born on November 24th. So he beat me on Earth by 2 weeks. He made this list, and I didn't. So he beat me twice.
Other than that, everything in your life is identical.
Yeah, I don't know about that. All right. So number 8, and I know I'm not going to lie to you, Danny. I know you like this guy. And I told you I did like kind of 3 different versions on my list before I settled on my final one that I have here. I will tell you there was one version where this gentleman did not make the list, but I did settle with putting him at 8 eventually. And honestly, I'll probably give this away without saying his name to why I didn't have him.
I already know who it is.
Yeah. When you look at his numbers, he really has no business being on a top 10, right? But I think when you look at the whole body of work and the story, he gets on. And to tell you the truth, when he started his major league career, he's actually playing very well, and an injury sidetracked him and became sort of a role player. Hit 6, this is a crazy stat, has 6 major league home runs in his career. Only 206 ribbies, but he had a rocket.
And he played near 20 years. That's how bad he was.
15.
15. Okay.
Yeah, and but he read 10 papers a day, spoke multiple languages, and arguably one of the smartest guys in baseball. All his managers said he was one of the most intelligent players they've ever managed. He's famous probably more for the stuff off the baseball field. They made a movie, which I've not seen. I actually got to see it. The Catcher Was a Spy, where Paul Rudd plays him.
The book is better. I've done both.
Okay.
The movie doesn't.
So it is, and Ruben's got it. It's Mo Berg, and so and that's what I mean. I was playing tug of war in my mind, Ruben and everyone else too. Is he worthy of the top 10 list? But when you I guess when you put the whole story together, and he served his country, and so, someone could argue he probably shouldn't be on the list, and at one point he wasn't on my list. I get it. I get it because I can make arguments for both being on and not being on, but I wound up settling, putting him 8, rather than not have him on the list. So it's Mo Berg in my 8 spot. Just the whole enigma of the story, and I think what made him, what made me put him on the list was reading that had he not, I think it was a knee injury. Had he not got a knee injury, he was on track to be a better ball player. So I think I put him on the list kind of when I read that. And then the whole rest of the story. So there you go. Now it's to Danny for 8 and then 9.
Well, I think you've done a great job covering a lot of the history of these two. My number 8 is Lip Pike.
All right. Yeah. I thought I was gonna snake. I thought I was gonna get him. You
got to get up pretty early in the morning to find a Jewish ball player I haven't met. Lip Pike, not just the first Jewish baseball player of all time, but like you said, he was a star in his time. He was one of the first professional baseball players in general. He was just an outright superstar in the 1870s, I believe it was. And so you're talking really the dawn of the organized game. So it's hard to compare against modern players from a statistics standpoint, but everything John said is correct. He was regarded as one of, if not the best player of the times. And more importantly, just one of the founding fathers of professional baseball, and being the first Jewish player of all time. has a special significance. So that's why I had Lip Pike at 8.
And real, when I was learning about him and reading about him, Danny, the comparison I kind of made in my own mind, he had like a Josh Gibson sort of feel to him. Many people said, man, Josh Gibson was better than Babe Ruth. He just didn't get the opportunity. I'm not saying Lip Pike was better than Babe Ruth, but he played in an era before that when he was arguably the best player of that time period. And so there was sort of a Josh Gibson element to him. I had that sort of feel. So I thought I might sneak that one through the 5-hole, but he got on your list. Well, let me ask you this. He made both of our lists. I had him at 6. You have him at 8?
Yes.
Why? I guess. I mean,
why did I have him lower?
Yeah.
Because my first criteria was on the field production, and my second criteria was contributions to the game. And so I thought about putting him ahead of like a Sean Green. I went back and forth on that. I probably, in hindsight, maybe should have or could have done that. Ryan Braun is just such an enigma because of his career, but on the field, his numbers were really spectacular. So I don't think I would have put Lip Pike in front of Braun or Boudreaux. But certainly in the top 10 for me.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so your number 9 guy.
My number 9, one of my all-time favorite players. You touched on it. The catcher was a spy, Mo Berg. Hurt his knee in the first couple of years of his career and still managed to play 15 seasons in the major leagues. And there's many reasons why people think he stayed around that long. He was a member of all-star teams that toured Japan when he was far from an all-star player.
Well, listen, you know why, right?
He was filming for the OSS, and he provided a lot of the film that they had pre-World War II, of Japan in the harbor and their military setup. So there are questions about whether or not he was ordered to do that or some of that was done on his own. But when he was in Japan, he snuck away from the team. He went to the hospital, which was the tallest building in downtown Tokyo. And he walked right into the hospital and walked right up to the roof and filmed the harbor and the downtown. And that film went to the U.S. government. So he was involved with the U.S. government for years during and after his playing days. How much he was involved in what role is kind of, up in the air. At one point, he was actually given permission to assassinate a German nuclear scientist if he felt it was necessary. So his story is remarkable. And the fact that he was a baseball player for 15 years, whether it was a covered story or not, is really remarkable. So there was no way I was going to have a top 10 without Morris Berg.
All right. So you had him what?
Number 9.
Number 9. All right. So my 9, this is the other guy that I took off, put back on the list along with Mo Berg. And he's already been mentioned on your list higher than mine. He's probably the best active Jewish player. And that's really why I'm not saying he's bad. That's why I took him off the list at one point, because I'm like, he's still playing. The book's not completed yet. But his numbers are, I guess, too good to ignore, and that's obviously Alex Bregman. 2 World Series rings already, maybe more added to that before his career's done. We've kind of went out, 2-time All-Star, pretty good hitter, pretty good long ball hitter, and defensively pretty good. And he's still playing. That was my only trepidation, is like, do I want to put an active player on this list whose body of work's not complete, but I did. I'll talk about it kind of when we're done. But not everyone on your list made my list, and I can explain that. So that's 9. My 10th guy, and my last guy in the official top 10. Another guy. When you look at complete stats, you can make an argument like, how did he make your list, or how did the honorable mentions you're going to make could arguably been ahead of him. But when we talk about the first, right, the kind of the precedent setter, right, it's got to be Ron Blomberg, playing in New York too, which is a big Jewish city. He said that was one of the things that drove him, was he knew that there was a lot of Jewish people watching him. He's the first DH in Major League Baseball history. He's got a sandwich named after him at the Stage Deli.
If that's not reason enough.
So if someone argued with me that Ron Blomberg shouldn't be on this list, I get it, but I put him on just because of all the history. I think being a Yankee, playing in New York, and he's still very active on social media. A lot of his stuff's he's not in Cooperstown, but a lot of his stuff is. And, that's why he's at 10, because you could make an argument that he couldn't be not on someone's list. He slipped in at 10 for me. I get it. It might not be, everyone might not be agreement on that, but that's why it's our list, right? So that's my last guy in the top 10. I do want to talk about some honorable mentions, but your last guy that gets in.
Well, I'll give you my last guy who you already talked about was Ken Holtzman. I think you just got to have the number one Jewish pitcher as far as all-time wins on the list. Like you said, a couple no-hitters. And 15-year Major League career with a 3.49 ERA. So nothing to sneeze at there for the full career. For full disclosure, Ron Blomberg did not make my list. He did make my honorable mention, so I'll snake back around to that. But I took Ken Holtzman because I thought his significance to his career to baseball was bigger. Although the footnote of being the first designated hitter ever is a very cool footnote for Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get to some honorable mentions, let's hear from our other sponsors, and then we'll kind of close with people who just missed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry? We are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
All right, John, we finished our top 10, and we're heading into the honorable mention portion here. I gave my first honorable mention was Ron Blomberg, and who do you have?
So this guy would have made the 10th spot if it wasn't for me putting, Blomberg in. Sid Gordon, 283 career average, 202 home runs. He's a two-time All-Star. He's also from Brooklyn, sentimental.
No surprise.
He also lost a few years serving in the war too, and he's a great player. He's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but you hit 200 home runs in that era and missing time due to the war. He was right there on the cusp. I want to add, I didn't put Ryan Braun on my list. I couldn't. The steroid era guys, I'm a little more harder on them than maybe some are. That really ruined it for me. And then some of his, even the way he handled it, once it kind of came out that it was the case, I thought he didn't do a great job. Can I argue? I don't blame you for putting it on the list. The numbers are there. They're definitely worthy. I couldn't get over the steroid stuff. So Ryan Braun didn't make my list for that reason. A couple other guys. I put Rob Carew on my honorable mention list, even though he's not eligible. And then one last guy.
We made a list of top 10 Jewish players, and you picked a non-Jew. You can't do that.
Adam Sandler called me up and said, John, if you're not going to put him on the list, give him an honorable mention for me. So my Hanukkah song still has some chutzpah to it. And then the last guy that was sort of in the mix, he never made any of the 3 drafts, honestly, but he was, on the ballot, so to speak. Mike Lieberthoff, famous Phillies catcher. I just couldn't put him on over a lot of the other guys when push came to shove. But it's probably fair to mention him in there. So who was on the outside looking in for you?
I had Ian Kinsler, a heck of a career with Texas, and he was probably closer to the list than some of the other guys. Just couldn't quite squeeze him in there. I had Michael Lieberthal as well, and Brad Ausmus, who's gone on and using the contribution, being a manager and a player, and just extending that. And Gabe Kapler is the other one, because I think when all is said and done, he's going to have a good managerial career. I think he's going to be around for a long time. But that's why he's an honorable mention on the outside looking in.
No Sid Gordon, though, on your honorable mention.
I'll admit that I saw Sid Gordon, and I totally forgot to put him on my list. But thank you for calling me out.
All right. I just thought maybe you had like a Sid Gordon bone to pick or something I missed.
I got no bones with Sid.
Well, listen, this is fun. We're gonna, probably from time to time we'll do this again. Top 10 of some sort.
We were a lot closer than I thought we were gonna.
Yeah, I'm glad, but I thought that the lip pike, might slip by you, but not Danny Black. He's not letting that one. He's on top of his game, and I'm glad he made your list. I thought, I thought he would be, if he was on your list, I thought he would be around the same part of the list or not on your list. So I was, the fact that he was 8, that's why I asked you why he was kind of 8. Yeah, I think, it's a tough era. The guys weren't hitting 30 home runs or more then. But arguably everything I read just said he was just one of the best ball players of that time period. And so I moved him up. I had him 6th on mine. You had him 8th. I'm glad we both got him on the list. Had you not put him on the list, and Euclid is another one. I
meant to put him on my honorable mention. The Greek.
Yeah. He definitely he was on my radar for sure. He didn't make my top 10, but we could have did easily a top 20, and a lot of those guys would have made it, and it's tough. And that's where like Moberg was on my list, and he wasn't. Ryan Braun, numbers wise, should have been on my list. I just couldn't get over the whole steroid thing and how he handled it before and even after, and even at the end, he was kind of just petering out, and he hung on a little bit too long, too. And I won't argue the Ryan Braun. I mean, the numbers are there. Just personal how I feel about that. I just couldn't pull the trigger and put him on the list.
All right. Well, I'm going to give a recap of my top 10 for anybody who didn't catch the whole show. Just give a quick recap. In order, 1 through 10, Sandy Koufax, Hank Greenberg, Al Rosen, Alex Bregman, Lou Boudreau, Ryan Braun, Sean Green, Lipman Pike, Mo Berg, and Ken Holtzman.
All right. So mine, we were chalk on 1 and 2 with Koufax and Greenberg. We had 3 and 4 just kind of reversed. I had Boudreau 3rd and Rosen 4th. You had it the other way around. Ken Holtzman was a little higher on my list at 5. Lip Pike at 6. Sean Green at 7. Mo Berg at 8. Ron Blomberg at 9. And I think I put Alex Bregman at 8. I think Mo Berg at 9, and then Ron Blomberg finished at 10. Almost didn't. I really debated on him as well, and so like you said, it was probably a little more closer than I thought it was going to be. But it was some of those honorable mention guys that, could have honestly, Euclid could have been in that top 10 on the back part of it. Lieberthal even, not, he was in the mix. He just didn't make it for me. Sid Gordon was on my list actually on probably 2 of the 3, but at the end I put him 11th, but arguably had the numbers to be in the top 10. And that's what's fun about these lists, right? Is you get different perspectives and even in with chat with Dan Ryan mentioned Euclid. I mean, arguably great career predominantly in Boston and became a character, right? Uke, just known just by that sentiment. So it was fun to put together and kind of compare notes. And we'll do it again with something else. We're not going to overdo it either, but we'll do it from time to time. And I thought it would be a fun thing and to do. And I think it came out well. I think, I learned stuff in the process of making my list. I'm sure you did. I saw Ruben say, very cool show. He learned something. And at the end of the day, right, that's cool to learn about. Guys that you didn't really know either a lot about or a little bit, and then you learn more and more to kind of deeper dive, like with Lip Pike and that sort of thing. So, it's fun. Happy birthday. Congratulations, as you now own a Sandy Koufax rookie. You do want a Mo Berg rookie as well. That's still you're on the hunt for that eventually. As well. So if anyone wants to give one to Danny for his birthday, private message him and he'll forward his
You can public message me if it's free.
I don't think that's going to happen, but it's worth a shot. So, but,
well, John,
go ahead.
I want to thank you for the idea of doing this because you gave me an opportunity on my birthday to opt out and not do the show tonight. And I said I wanted to do the show. So we picked something that I think we just had some good fun with. I hope people take it that way. I hope they learned a little bit of something like you said. And, there's nothing wrong with diving a little bit into history, whatever reason it's for. I think we all get into cards and collectibles because we, like the stories and the people. And this is really what that exercise was for me. So thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's, even in doing this list, it's like I said before we started mentioning players, right? Now I'm sort of like, hey, I want to look up Sid Gordon's rookie, right? I might want to get Al Rosa, right, and do something sort of centric around this list, right? And that's the beauty of the hobby as well. But bringing the hobby back into it, right? Is you can hobby any way you want to and encompass it any way you want to, and so. Maybe someone else will, I know people collect players from their area, right? So, around their hometown. So anyway, your hobby, that's the beauty of it. You're the CEO of how you do it. And, maybe this gave someone, even if it's just a player that we mentioned, like, hey, I want to look for his cards and see what I can find, and that sort of thing.
And all that being said, John absolutely gave extra points to anybody from Brooklyn, so just know that when you listen.
I have to, right? It's
all right. Well, John, anything else?
Well, I just wanted to say Andy Koufax was going to be my number one, whether he was from Brooklyn or he wasn't.
Yeah.
But he is from Brooklyn, so it made it easy to pencil his name in at number one.
And I'd like to point out that I know you have his rookie as well, and it was the one that I was going to buy last year at the National. So we're coming up almost exactly on 1 year since you bought that card from under me. So happy anniversary.
Well, now the curse is over. It's like the Red Sox winning the World Series. You got your Koufax, and it's all good.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed everything tonight, and we will catch you in 2 weeks. See ya.